When my wife, Caitlin, was pregnant with our first child, Harry, we found ourselves on the precipice of new identities, something we had not ever been before we were about to become. And that thing was Park Slope lesbian moms. This is a very specific identity, and one of the things it requires is finding a doula. Every pregnant person in Park Slope is either searching for a doula or working with a doula or potentially is a doula themselves. And a doula is a person who works alongside pregnant people and helps them get ready for a baby to be born, who is with them during labor and delivery, and then helps them postpartum with sleeping and feeding. It is a whole industry in Park Slope. A lot of doulas are teeth-achingly earnest, and that is not really our style, me and Caitlin. And so we found a doula with a bit of an edge, like us, who seemed to get what was kind of funny about the whole enterprise, but who also seemed to know what she was doing. She herself had been raised by two moms, and she had two little kids of her own, and she had attended many births, so we trusted that she would help us figure out what we needed to know, and most importantly, that she would be with us during the labor and delivery part, which was the part that was the most scary and unknown. This, to me, is the mind-boggling thing about bringing new human life into this world. We have all been through it. We were all born. And each one of those stories was different and weird in its own way, and yet, not one of us remembers it. Until you've been there when someone new is born, you just have no idea what to expect. It's something known to us deep in our bones, and yet also somehow entirely unpredictable and scary. It's going to be the best day of your life and the worst day of your life, and there is no way to prepare for it. Why am I talking about doulas and birth on Good Friday, when I chose Nicodemus to talk to you about? What does this have to do with him of all people? Well, Nicodemus is a biblical character who only appears in the Gospel of John. He shows up 3 times early in Jesus' ministry, briefly just before the Passion narrative begins, and then after Jesus' death, to prepare the body with 100 pounds of myrrh and aloes. Early in Jesus' ministry, he shows up in the middle of the night. We are told he is a Pharisee, probably a senior leader of the Pharisees, the religious leaders of the time. He has power and religious authority. He is a leader of the people whom Jesus' power is threatening. But he sees something compelling in Jesus. He sees a glimmer of God. There is that tiny kernel of hope and faith in Nicodemus that Jesus might be who he says he is. The signs, as the Gospel of John calls them, that Jesus has been doing, Nicodemus knows they could only be from God. Nicodemus sees what's true beyond his own desire to hold on to the status quo. And their conversation in the middle of the night is about birth. You see, the people have been one thing, and they are about to become something entirely new. The people of God have been focused on the order of their life and the waiting for the Messiah. Structures of power have been built around the fact of their existence. And now Jesus offers a birth, something that the people know they want, something long expected, and yet also unexpectable. The promise of a Messiah here and now. It's something known to them deep in their bones, and yet also somehow entirely unpredictable and scary. It's going to be the best day of their life and the worst day of their life, and there is no way to prepare for it. There are many people and stories that only appear in the Gospel of John: Nicodemus, Lazarus. There are lots of things special about the Gospel of John. There is no institution of the Eucharist at the Last Supper in the Gospel of John. Rather, Jesus washes the feet of his friends. Jesus in the Greek is doulos to them, a willing slave, because the service he offers is complete and comes from the deep love of God from inside himself. Doulos, the same root as our modern word doula, the feminine word for slave, someone who chooses to set their own life aside to be fully present to a birthing person, a willing witness and servant to the love that is present at birth. Jesus does not say at the Last Supper, "This is my body, this is my blood," as he does in the other Gospels. But what happens in the Gospel of John that does not happen in any other Gospel is rather a physical presentation of his body on the cross. Jesus shows himself, his body and his blood, on the cross. He breathes his last, and the soldiers pierce his side. From his side flows blood and water. Blood and water, not present in any other gospel. From this final opening on Jesus' body, from his side, blood and water. At the birth of Harry, our first child, Caitlin was the laborer. Our doula was on one side of her. I was on the other side of her, holding her hand. Our midwife was in the room, waiting to catch Harry. And there was one other person in the room, too, the labor and delivery nurse. When we arrived at the hospital, Caitlin had already been laboring a long time. She was in a lot of pain. She was already in the moment birthing professionals call transition. In triage, our nurse was assigned, and they gave us a young man named Greg. Now, this is unusual for a labor and delivery nurse to be a young man. Our doula took me aside. She had been to many births at this hospital, and she had never met Greg before. She whispered to me, "You could ask to be reassigned. Maybe you want the room to be all women." I pondered it for just a moment. Why would I need the room to be all women? "I'm sure Greg is fine," I said. She said, "Okay," a little skeptically, like she knew something that I didn't. I should have known when just a few minutes later, Greg started walking us to our room, pushing the IV bag on its holder in front of him, not realizing that Caitlin hadn't even gotten up from the triage bed yet, as he yanked the IV from her arm, that maybe Greg wasn't going to be fine. And it turns out this was one of Greg's first ever births, and he didn't know what he was doing at all. Our competent midwife and our competent doula made up for it, but Greg was a comedy of errors. His one job was to keep monitoring Caitlin's and Harry's heartbeats, but every 10 minutes or so, the alarms would go off. Something had shifted, and the alerts would beep, 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 beep. And the midwife would say, "Greg, Greg." "Oh, right," he'd say, "the monitor." And this happened again and again and again. Finally, Harry was born. There he was, a screaming, red-faced baby with a cone head, plopped down on Caitlin's chest. We had been one thing, and now we were a new thing, a family of 3. We were parents. Harry had been born, and we had been reborn. Now, Greg had one final job. It was to remove what is called the blood bag. This is a tarp-like thing that goes on the bed under the person who is laboring. It collects everything that comes out of a human being alongside the baby. And what comes out exactly? Well, blood and water. Lots of blood and lots of water. Greg went to remove the blood bag, and Greg dropped it. It splattered all over the floor, all of the blood and all of the water, in a slippery mess on the linoleum tile of the hospital floor. "No," Greg said. "Greg," the midwife shouted, and our doula, she took a picture of it. And it is still one of the first photos in Harry's photo baby album. This is the moment in the Gospel of John where Jesus says, without speaking, "This is my body. This is my blood." This space on Jesus' body from his side. Medieval Christians understood that this was the birthplace of the Eucharist, and therefore the birthplace of us, the church. And Nicodemus was the one who first bore witness to the change that would come at this birth. Nicodemus, in the very next verses of John, returns to take Jesus' body and prepare it for burial. And what does he use? Myrrh, the very same substance present at Jesus' own birth, pounds and pounds of myrrh. Who was this Nicodemus, this man with power, this man not without blame in the story of Jesus' passion? He did not have the courage to approach Jesus during the day. He did not use his power to stop the Pharisees' plan to kill Jesus, even though he voiced his skepticism. But he became the doula at our birth, the birth of the church, the new life that every one of us is invited into by Jesus' death on the cross. You are on the precipice of something new each time you sit at the feet of Jesus' cross on this day, on Good Friday. You are a pregnant person each time you allow yourself to enter the mystery of Jesus' passion in Holy Week. It's something known to you deep in your bones, and yet also somehow entirely unpredictable and scary. It's going to be the best day of your life and the worst day of your life, and there is no way to prepare for it. Nicodemus's example shows you a way forward from here to Easter. It is to take on willingly the role of doula, the willing slave to the hope and faith within you, to what is entirely unpredictable, to the pain you know awaits you, but to the love you know will catch you. On the other side of this day, you will be something new. Amen.